and I want to bring in, because I have a number of things to bring up, because we should also talk about the reopening, and not just everywhere else, but in Texas. Tarrant County Sheriff Bill WAYBOURN, he's America's sheriff, one of my favorite, he is my favorite law enforcement officer out there. Sheriff, it is always such a pleasure to see you. I realize, obviously that law enforcement has discretion when they are engaging with individuals that may be violating, certain orders and things of that nature. But I wanted to get your take on how that whole Luther case kind of developed, and your sort of response to that judge's attitude in that soundbite that I just played.
Well, thank you, and it's great to be with you, Dana, and I'm always privileged to be here with you. And, we are the government, and we're here to help you, right? And I am so sorry that went that way, and I'm sorry that at this point in history, under the issues that we're under, that the callousness of that judge was shown up. I'm sorry it got to a courtroom. I wish that a little bit more discretion would have been applied there, where, yes, she may be violating that order, but in these times, could we come along and maybe advocate for her to say, hey, we have some alternatives. There's that Care Now money that's right here that we can get you by until the governor opens that up. Is there anything else that we can do besides what happened? Mm-hmm. And I think it's tremendously tragic, and it's just not a good note for us to be on at this moment.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point too, because it seemed as though all the individuals that were kind of coming down on her head, because I know that going through, and I've got a number of emails from listeners, not just all over the state, but all over the country, where I have like 600 and some odd emails from people talking about this, small business owners and those unemployed. They were discussing how difficult it was to just get into the website to apply for unemployment and all of that, and I think some of that has compounded all of it. But all of the people that came down on this mama's head, nobody offered to help her. There was nobody showed up and said, you know what, let me buy your groceries this week, or maybe can I help meet your mortgage payment? Can I help meet your car note? Or can I help buy groceries for one of your employees or something like that? It was always, the first reaction is always such a punitive one. I think that says a lot about us as a society, Sheriff. What do you say?
I couldn't agree with you more. We could have mitigated that a lot better, where we reached out with a compassionate hand and said, let me help you through the bureaucracy, and let me make sure your kids are well fed, make sure that you have what you need. Do I need to argue with your mortgage company? Is there anything on those levels? If that is the type of service that I wish that government would be given, instead of, hey, we can't talk to you about it, we're here to just hammer you.
Yeah, how tough
I think it's a bad approach. Yeah. We should encourage, educate, and assist.
How difficult has it been, in your perspective, from a law enforcement perspective, when it's a weird situation, because you have, and I know it differs state by state, like in New York, you have police in New York who are saying, we don't want to enforce these orders. We think that what lawmakers are asking, it does go too far. But then when we enforce what they're demanding that we enforce, then they don't have our backs on this. And then also, law enforcement wants to have a good relationship with the community. And you see in certain states, if they're arresting people on the beach or wherever, my concern is that it jeopardizes a long established relationship between people who are more freedom-minded, maybe conservative, and law enforcement, because all of these bad examples get intensified with social media and national media. And I know that there are a lot more law enforcement out there that disagree with it, but tell me, from your perspective in law enforcement, how difficult has it made things because of this weird dichotomy?
Well, it has made things a little bit weird. And, when things happen like they did in Dallas, it's like a huge rock in the pond, and the ripple effect isn't going to go away today. It's going to be there tomorrow and a few weeks down the road, and a few months and maybe years. But it does make it difficult for the rest of us, because, people, Americans, and Texas in particular, are liberty-minded people. And if they believe they are standing their ground for liberty and justice, they're going to stand their ground. We saw this lady do it, and where she thought she should be. So it puts us in an uncompromising situation when we force the hands of some of this, when, again, education, encouragement, and a compassionate hand would be a lot better. But from us in Tarrant County, we're doing fine. I mean, we're going along real well.
Yeah, and it seems like it is doing well. Everybody seems to be, I think, pretty easygoing, and everybody's given each other some grace. And I wanted to ask you about that reopening process as well, because it's so different from county to county, you know. And you have some people who, not everybody works from home. Some people are still going into work, maybe even in a different county. Talk to me a little bit about, you know, these opening guidelines, just as it is for that you're dealing with here in Texas, and when the mask which I know Texas doesn't really have mask enforcement, but you know, in certain stores you only have like the 25% capacity, and I know that for restaurants the ratio of alcohol to food sales, I'm going down my mental list. I know gyms are opening on Monday and there's certain restrictions in place there. That's a lot for people to remember. What makes it easier for them to remember that, Sheriff? And talk to me a little bit about the reopening process.
Well, a lot of that's going to be on their honor. I mean, we're, going out and counting heads in a gym or in a restaurant and that kind of thing is not, I don't see law enforcement performing those functions. And what I see is that in a general, strong way is encouraging people to be smart, using common sense, don't put themselves in a bad position. And that's what I see. I don't see strict enforcement. I don't see it possible. I see that the word should be, guys, use common sense and let's help each other out and make sure each other's okay. But it's going to be very, very difficult if we start getting a lot of calls of people saying, well, there's too many people in that shop or too many people in that shop, and we start responding to those things. That doesn't make it easy. What we need to do is just remind people to be careful.
Yeah, be very careful indeed. I know there's already discussion in my town because people were saying, and I have to be honest, Sheriff, I'm one of them. They were saying, well, if you go into the gym, make sure you wear your surgical gloves. I'm like, I'm not going to be lifting up dumbbells wearing surgical gloves. That doesn't make any sense. And I can't get surgical gloves small enough to fit my hands anyway. They always kind of roll up. That seems actually even more dangerous. Isn't there also, Sheriff, the idea that you can be so cautious it does become dangerous? My mom used to tell me that all the time when I first started driving. She would be like, you're so cautious, you're going to cause a problem.
It's we used to refer to it in the martial arts as, if you tense up in the ring, you're probably going to get hit and hurt. So you want to be careful. You want to relax a little bit. You want to take a deep breath, and we need to live life and not live it in fear. And we need to take a few precautions, but showing up in a chemical mask and a chemical suit to work out, you may lose more weight if you're doing that, but I don't know that it would be productive, and it could be overwhelming, and you drop a dumbbell on your foot and out for another month or something.
You probably just gave some viewers out there and some listeners across the country, Sheriff, an idea. They just heard you say, well, you might lose more weight, and all these people who've been packing on pandemic pounds are thinking, well, the sheriff just gave us, we're going to go and do just that. So don't be surprised. You'll probably see some people in Tarrant County now showing up to the gym doing that. Talk to me a little bit about, because I know we're running out of time here, what would you like to tell people as things are reopening and as we are getting used to going back to a normal? What would you have people keep in mind as we're now starting to patronize restaurants on a limited basis and some of these other stores, and go back to our gyms and salons? What would you like for people to keep in mind to make it easy for everybody?
I think simple thoughts of, one, go do it. Go to the salons, go to the restaurants, go to the gyms, go enjoy yourself, and don't think that the virus is at the door, but use a little bit of common sense. Make sure you do stay a little bit distance from people. Make sure that you do have things that, if you're going to cough or something, don't cough on somebody.
Don't lick no handrails.
Just use good common sense, and let's go enjoy life, and let's move this back toward normal.
There you go. Sheriff Bill WAYBOURN, we wish that you were a sheriff everywhere. Just clone you, make you a sheriff everywhere else, because I think we wouldn't have these situations that we keep talking about in the news. I really think that. We appreciate what you do, not just for the county, but also the example that you set for everyone else, Sheriff. God bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you.